You are taking the piss. I have no idea how I'm gonna like this video either. If you are not new here, you will know my thing about snowflakes. But if you are new here, you won't know. I have a condition called cold urticaria, which means I am allergic to cold, and the snowflake has sort of become my mascot. But last week I was diagnosed with something called visual snow syndrome. So now I have two snowflake conditions. Just to my luck, I'm now Prince of Snowflakes. Don't make the rules, sorry. Visual snow syndrome, in a nutshell, is a neurological condition that affects your eyesight. I see the world like this, and this, and this. Except the spots are bigger, thicker, and they jump around more. So what is visual snow syndrome? Visual snow syndrome is, like I said, a condition that affects somebody's eyesight, if that wasn't clear from the name. The key symptom is a layer of static that encompasses somebody's entire visual field, and that includes when they close their eyes. You can have visual snow without having visual snow syndrome. It becomes visual snow syndrome when you have two or more of the following symptoms, in conjunction with normal eye health. Photophobia, palinopsia, which is ghosting or trailing of images, blue field entopic phenomenon, nyctalopia or poor night vision, negative after images, floaters, and in some case, tinnitus. There are some other little symptoms, but those are the main ones. Talking to people, our experiences can be somewhat different, and we have a big comorbidity with depression and anxiety. You can find more information about these symptoms and visual snow syndrome in the links that I've put in the description. Which of these do I have? Most of them. I have photophobia, which, you know, elephant in the room, I will talk about in a minute. Poor night vision, blue field entopic phenomenon, palinopsia, tinnitus, and negative after images. I do have floaters, but very rarely. I believe most, if not all people, have floaters at some point in their life, or just in general. So I don't think that my floaters are necessarily visual snow syndrome related, because I don't think I get them any more than the average person. How does it affect me? Well, I can't look at anything white in remotely reasonable lighting without getting painful glare, which I always thought was normal. I thought nobody could look at white and everybody was just really stoic about it and I was the worst. But no, not the case. I have quite thick snow, which really impacts my ability to read. I've actually had visual snow syndrome for my entire life. I am pretty sure I was born with it, but it's in my earliest memory, so I'm gonna go with yes. So I thought it was normal because I have no frame of reference. I don't have a before, I don't have a normal. This is my normal. So I thought everybody else saw like that because I didn't know any different. And I thought that because everybody saw like this, that's why nobody talked about it, and therefore I thought I was wrong for struggling with it because everybody else sees like this and they're not complaining, they're not struggling, so obviously I'm weak. And I gave myself so much shit for not being able to read like everybody else, because I've mentioned it in another video, I can't remember which one. I was praised for being academically gifted, so I was in all the gifted and talented sets and nobody really... I was always like praised for being smart. But smart people can read easily, right? That is of course not the case. If you struggle with reading, that's completely okay. It does not make you any less smart. But always in my brain I was like, so if I'm so smart, I should really be able to read without difficulty, right? But so I just kept quiet and got really depressed about it for a long time because, again, thought it was normal and thought nobody else struggled with it. this is why I'm making this video. Another way visual snow syndrome affects me is I am also deaf. And being deaf, my doctor then started bringing up the phrase deaf-blind, which was a shock to me. But researching it, it made sense. The deaf-blind spectrum does not just include people like Helen Keller, who is real. FYI, if you are here from TikTok. The deaf-blind spectrum includes people that have both mild hearing problems and mild visual problems, which visual snow syndrome is mild compared to a lot of people. I believe I have sort of moderate visual snow syndrome because it does affect me quite a lot in everyday life. And my hearing loss is the mild, moderate sort of area. So if you have both mild deafness and mild vision problems, and this is the important part, and it significantly impacts your ability to communicate and function in everyday life, you might fit on the deaf-blind spectrum. So my deafness and my visual snow syndrome really do make it harder for me to communicate and to just get along in daily life, because in the video I made about how to talk to deaf people when you don't sign, I said write it down, like I wasn't struggling to read at that point as well. So, yeah. And also with the snow it is harder to lip read, and with the whole photophobia and issues with processing light, it is harder to lip read in certain lighting situations. So if the lighting isn't perfect, I can't even see you, let alone lip read you. And I thought it was normal because when other deaf YouTubers talked about how to lip read, make sure the lighting is right, that's what I thought they meant. I thought they meant looking through snow and making the lighting help that. Do you ever just look back on your life and you're just like, oh? Because that's what I'm doing right now. I've chatted to a bunch of deafblind people and deafblind charities to sort of get more of an understanding of, do I fit in the deafblind spectrum, which, yes. It's on the milder end, but yes. But I'm still processing this. So if anybody on the deafblind spectrum is watching this, please feel free to reach out to me and have a chat about it. I would really appreciate it, and I definitely want to know more regardless. More on how it impacts me. The blue field entopic phenomenon. I'm aware that I haven't really talked about what the symptoms are. Really hard to describe actually. When you look at just a field of blue, so for example a blue sky, which is always almost too bright for me, you'll see so like the shapes of floaters or like clear, transparent-ish dots. I'm just going to move over here because there's light. So little transparent-ish dots like whizzing around. I'm going to put a link in the description to an Instagram account called Visual Snow Pulse, and I'm going to link to this specific post that they made about blue field entopic phenomenon because it's so accurate. It's like my least problematic symptom. Negative after images. I get those. So if you've seen the optical illusion of you look at like 4 like splodges, I think it's a white background with black splodges, or the other way around, you look at that for like 10 seconds without blinking and then you look at a white wall and you see the face of Jesus. I get that from looking at anything remotely bright for any length of time. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be bright, which on its own doesn't really sound that bad, but it can be really disorientating, and I can't always like see through it or see past it, especially if it's a big one, or if I'm trying to walk places or move or navigate or do sort of anything that requires my sight. I also get it from reading. So if I read black text on a white background, I will get just lots of horizontal lines at whatever I look at next, and sometimes that can just completely block out the words. I get it from just instantly looking at any post with night mode on, so I cannot read white text on a black background or a dark background. It just doesn't work. Which, you know, in 2021 a lot of social media posts are screenshotted from night mode, so I can't see them. Which is why I like image descriptions apparently. The last symptom I'm going to talk about is palinopsia / ghosting / trailing / double vision. So when I move my hand, I see a very slight trail. I don't just see my hand moving, I see my hand followed by a little like, it's like a go faster trail type thing. That's just one example. Sometimes I can't tell if there's one thing or two things, but this generally only really happens with smaller things, but that includes words on a page. And dots on a dice. Often can't tell, I prefer the dice with the actual numbers on. There is no cure for VSS, there is no treatment necessarily for it. You can treat a couple of the symptoms, but generally not much you can do about it. So finally, elephant in the room, the orange glasses. Those are for photophobia because it turns out that's getting in the way quite a lot. And just toning down the brightness ever so slightly might help with some of the negative after images that I'm having and just the pain from seeing white things, I guess. So we have got lots of ring light glare. There we go. So orange specifically has been suggested to help with the photophobia related to visual snow syndrome, but it's not exactly been peer reviewed, it's just anecdotal evidence. But a lot of people have suggested tinted lenses for photophobia. That is sort of a well-known thing. And orange, well, we had to start somewhere, and I've noticed that orange / warm toned lighting generally hurts me less. It may or may not work. It's been 4 days, so I will film an update video in the future, but these colours might be subject to change, just for transparency. And something that might help with double vision is just strengthening of my eye muscles, because it was noted a while ago that they were a little bit weak. Apparently that's a well-known thing from opticians when they treat people with EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, if you didn't know. So I have some physio to do for my eyeballs. Is it progressive? No. I've had it my entire life and it hasn't really changed. Am I going to go completely blind? Not from visual snow, no. Not from visual snow syndrome, no. Obviously I can't control my circumstances moving forward. Anyone can develop an eye condition at any point. But no, I have no plans or reason to believe that it's in my near future. Or in my distant future. Am I going to try any drugs for it? No. There's been a couple of suggestions like anti-epileptic drugs, but they're all like really severe, they're really harsh drugs, and I don't need them. I can survive with visual snow, like there's not enough evidence to say that it will treat it to make a risk versus benefit worth it. There's going to be too many side effects. I'm like, I can survive, it's just a bit difficult. I can't think of anything else that you'd want to know, so if I have missed something, put it down in the comment section below, and while you're there don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm going to make more visual snow videos probably, especially with the glasses journey. We'll see. There is a bit of a fit issue because I got them fitted with a mask on because COVID restrictions. So, but you know, aside from the fact that they don't fit 100%, it's pretty good so far. So yeah, once you have subscribed to my channel, ring that notification bell so you get notified every single time I post a new video. Videos go up every Saturday at 6 PM UK time with at least one bonus video every single month. Cool.